Hello, this is teddygaming and welcome back to another video. In today's one, we're going to be ranking all the TMNT comic book crossovers that happened this year. And oh boy, they are interesting to say the very least with what happened in them, shall we say. So yeah, let's get to this one. Let's go. Okay, so for the number 5 spot, I had to go to the RWInless Summer. Now, I know that this crossover isn't technically a crossover, but at the same time, it is sort of a crossover in a way, sort of not. It's a really weird one that sort of is but isn't, if that makes sense. And I'll explain a little bit more in just a second. And this crossover was between the Turtles, Sonic the Hedgehog, Dungeons & Dragons and My Little Ponies. And this one basically had each issue was focused on a certain franchise, dealing with Summer and how they wanted to extend it or something like that. And that's basically it, and basically how it was considered a crossover was because it was on the one title thing, for each issue, that makes sense. And also for cover B for each of the issues, it was basically a connecting cover, so there are elements of this crossover thing that makes it a crossover, but at the same time there's a lot of elements in this one that makes it not a crossover. Oh god, this one's so confusing. But yeah, with this one, I do think that this one did a really great job of just giving each franchise their own time to shine and giving them a really fun, unique story, which I think worked really well for what they're trying to do. The only thing which I would say is that I would have preferred them have a little backup story in each of the issues, doing a little crossover bit where we do get to see with characters interacting. I mean, I know that a lot of people would love to see some characters interact between Turtles and Sonic and My Little Ponies and stuff like that. So I feel like there's a little a big missed opportunity there, but other than that, I think that this was a really great event, a crossover type thing, and I would definitely like to see them do this kind of thing again, because I do see there being a lot of potential and opportunities here, but shame they didn't really do too much with it. But other than that, it was a pretty great crossover. Okay, so for the number 4 spot, it had to be the TMNT and Stranger Things crossover. Now, I might be a little bit biased for this one just because I don't know anything about Stranger Things whatsoever. I've seen the first three episodes, and that was about it, and from that I didn't learn much. And, after watching this, or reading this crossover, I didn't really have too much knowledge going into it, and even coming out of it, I still don't know too much about Stranger Things. But I did feel like there was a lot of elements in this crossover which I did really enjoy. I mean, I did enjoy the fact that basically that was going into the Mirage universe of Turtles and stuff like that. And also thought that the story itself was actually pretty fun and really great. I do feel like with the Turtle side of things, they do need to build up a connection with the Turtles, because this isn't a pre-established version of Turtles whatsoever. So I do feel like them going in straight into the weirder side of the universe and stuff like that was a little bit weird on the Turtle side of things, but it makes sense for Stranger Things type of things as well. So it's one of those kind of things where it's just this is good, but at the same time it's bad because this is this and this and this. And I do think there was a few interesting things in this crossover which I would like them to explore a little bit more. I mean, one of the things which I really did enjoy and I thought was really fascinating was how Backstorm was 11 and Raphael basically, oh yeah, your lives are being basically made for you, stuff like that, which I thought was a really interesting angle, and something which I would like them to explore a lot more, because I do think that's a really interesting idea and concept which could be an interesting story or something like that. But yeah. But I do think that one of the biggest things which I did have a really big problem with this one was the fact that in the final issue, with the big conclusion, it was basically opening a portal to bring back the people who went from into the Upside Down universe back to Earth. And I thought as a story type of thing, that would work normally. However, we haven't really done too much beforehand to make it a big thing, and the characters that were stuck on the other side, they weren't, really stuck there for that long and didn't do anything in there. It felt like it was just one of those things that they didn't really know how to properly end it without ruining the timelines of both franchises, and I felt like there was a lot of stuff which they could have done, but with how they ended it, it just felt so anticlimactic, and they could have done so much more. Okay, so for the number 3 spot, it had to be for the Street Fighter and TMNT crossover. And again with this one, I don't know anything about Street Fighter, and coming out of it, I still barely know anything about it. I know a few of the names, some, not many, but that's about as far as it went. Now, with this crossover, I do feel like this one had the most going for it in terms of what it could do. Just because, like, with other crossovers, it felt like they was, like, really doing stuff, or in the Stranger Things case, where they don't have anything in common. But I feel like with the Street Fighter stuff, they had a lot of stuff in common which they could do, and stuff which I do feel like they did use their full advantage, but I do feel like they could do a lot more with. And now it's the fighting between the two characters. You know, I do think it did like a really good job of showing some battles. I would like to see a lot more of it because I do feel like this was like a perfect opportunity just to see like so many characters just come in and fight and stuff like that. And it's a real shame which I don't really do too much with it, but other than that, I do feel like that's like some of the good stuff. Also, not to mention the artwork and also the colours for this one was also top notch. It was, I don't know, the artwork was all over the place in some areas, but it did remind me a lot of the 2003 Turtles, especially with the colours that was being used by Jeremiah, and I do think that overall it just worked really well. The only downside to this crossover, however, I would say is the fact that this one, I don't know, something about it felt really weird with the Turtles, and how inconsistently they were written, and felt like some of the Turtles were just written in weird ways. Basically, they'll have like different versions of the Turtles, like personalities, put into them, if that makes sense, and it felt like it was all over the place for some of the characters. I do think that was really like bad, and also not to mention just Shredder just being there just because he has to be there because he's the Shredder, and just fighting and getting angry because, you know, he's there, he's a Shredder, and he just felt so wasted, and he could have done a lot more, but instead he was just there to fight and get angry, and it was annoying. Oh god. Okay, so for the number 2 spot, it is the TMNT and Soi Jimbo Where When. Now, I must admit, I'm a little disappointed in myself for putting this one a little lower than what I would have expected. I really want to put this as number 1 just because it's the Soi Jimbo and Turtles. And normally when they do a crossover, whether that be in the comics or TV shows, they normally do like really great crossovers, and stuff which I would have to say is like probably like some of the best told content we do get. However, I have to say that this one in particular just felt, I don't know what's the best way of describing it. It just felt like it was like drawn out a bit too long. And I think the reason for that is just because whenever we do get a crossover between the Turtles and Soi Jimbo, it's normally like a one done type situation where we do look at the comics where it's like very short, but you know, it's done well. Or in the other case, it will be in a TV show where it'll just be one episode and get the full story there and then. However, with this story, it was taking place over 5 months, and I do think that was the biggest problem with this one, was the fact that you had to wait each month to get a new part of it, and I felt like it dragged out a bit too long. But I think that's my only complaint about it, is that it just felt like it was dragging out a bit too much. But I think had I read this story all at once, then I do think I would have preferred it a lot more, and would be saying a lot more nice things about it. But I would have to say that like with Stan Sakai coming back and doing stuff for this crossover, again, it works really well for Isoki's stuff. Love the art style, it just works so well for Isoki's stuff. And also not to mention, it's just so great to have Stan Sakai back. I really want to like see Stan Sakai do a lot more Toe stuff. So yeah. Okay, so for the number 1 comic book crossover, that'd be the TMNT and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Volume 2. Now, I know that some people will complain and say that, oh no, this is technically not a 2023 crossover. However, this comic book basically started at the very end of December last year, basically at the beginning of 2023, and the majority of this whole story came out in 2023, so I'm saying it came out in 2023, fight me. But either way, with this one, it was an interesting one because everything around it was just weird in so many different ways. So, first of all, we did have the passing of David Jason Frank, who played a Green Power Ranger, and everything around it just felt a little bit weird as reading brand new stories of his character after hearing the very tragic news. And then also, with this whole story, it felt like there was a lot of elements in this one that didn't really fit too well for this story. One example would be that characters are talking about stuff as if they have like a pre-established connection with these characters. I mean, Casey goes on about how basically the bad guys need to be stopped and it's about time to step up and do something about it. However, because this is a new established timeline, we haven't really seen too much of this universe and the characters fighting and stuff like that, so it does feel a bit weird. Or there's another example where Shredder's talking to the Turtles about why they do stuff for being heroes, and it just feels so weird. Like, even though it works well for the Turtle side of things, it does feel a little bit weird just because, you know, it's Shredder and, you know, we haven't really seen the connection between these characters and stuff like that. Another problem which I would say, they do repeat quite a few things from the first one, especially for Turtles getting new Power Ranger suits, which, you know, would be cool, but, you know, unfortunately we've already seen that, like, last time. And then some of the stuff was even, like, spoiled, such as the Power Rangers getting turned into mutants and stuff like that. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here which, like, should be cool, but it's either been done before or was leaked, and there's no hype around it whatsoever, which is really disappointing. And also, not to mention, make it a little bit worse, we did have the two teams splitting up, and this didn't really feel like it was much of a crossover, and it felt like basically the two teams are doing their own separate things, and it just so happens that it just has the other franchise in them, and it just felt a little bit weird to have like the stories there. It makes sense. It was just so weird, but it was okay, I want to say. But other than that, I do feel like this whole story was really great. The artwork was, again, phenomenal, and the setup for the next one, which I think is something which I'm looking forward to the most, is Strutter teaming up with Lord Dreg, it's something like that, and that's something which I'm looking forward to acquire Lord for next year. If they do bring out next year, I hope so. But yeah, there's also stuff in this one which I did enjoy. I mean, the Turtles doing the hologram thing, that was interesting. And even seeing the Turtles like in new like Dimension X Ranger suits, interesting. And even seeing Casey become like an evil Power Ranger, like a lot of interesting stuff within this one. But I do feel like there's a lot of stuff like within this one versus like, oh, that could have been a bit better. But other than that, it was okay. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you think about this list. Do you agree with it? Do you not? I've got a feeling that quite a few people will disagree with me for number 3 and 4 spot, just because they may have a bit of more connection with those franchises. But yeah, that's gonna be for today, guys. If it doesn't, please share, let's just grab no stuff. Goodbye, yo, bye.